Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and we have another wonderful guest today, and one that I think is going to be really interesting for many of you out there writing books or thinking about writing books. Before we go any further, I want to remind you to go over and get your free subscription to Breakthrough Author Magazine. You can find it at www.breakthroughauthormagazine.com. And one of the things about today's guest is she is one of the people who have been on our expanded tours. We have a new site out there that we are putting up, and we are doing more and more book marketing for after release and sometimes pre-release as well. But we are doing more media tours. We're doing all sorts of things on that end. So far, everyone that we've put in with our tour team has gotten tremendous results. Our team is actually former Simon & Schuster publicists. So, they've got the context, they read the books, they do everything. So if you're someone out there who's looking for that post-release publicity and you wasted your time on other companies, know that a lot of those other companies out there, they don't read your book. They have contacts that are not within the categories where they're going to get the right listeners. We don't have that problem. These guys read the books. They have the contacts from their days at the traditional publishers. So today's guest is Dorothy Beasley. And Dorothy Beasley, aka Grandma Beasley, is a proud baby boomer from Alberta, Canada, who was raised on a cattle farm where she learned to drive tractors and work with machinery as a young girl. Riding horseback and rounding up cattle were also part of her daily routine. Ranch life was hard. It was work and fun and sometimes dangerous. Cooking wasn't a skill that she picked up until after getting married. As the years passed, raising her 4 children and actively volunteering in the community, she discovered a love for baking and cooking nutritious meals for her family. Today, she values teaching young people essential life skills that will benefit them in the future, from cooking to money-saving techniques to public speaking and budgeting. She aims to pass on this valuable knowledge to help others lead fulfilling lives. She also enjoys sharing tips on preserving and harvesting garden vegetables, as well as wild plants and berries to make teas and lotions. She loves connecting, communicating, and collaborating with women, men, and children of all ages, as well as Mother Nature. And she enjoys new people, forming friendships, and to learn about each other. She has a book that came out last month called Voices from the Prairie, which is an anthology of ranch women. And the reason I'm so excited about this book and what Dorothy's doing is that I spent my first 5 years of my life on a horse ranch, and then my parents moved into the city not the city, a small town nearby, because they didn't want my sister and I going to school at a very small school system in San Miguel, California. So we moved to Paso Robles, but I still had ranch connections because my grandmother lived right outside of town and had an almond ranch in California, a rather substantial one. So I grew up on a ranch. I know it's hard work. You have to be sustainable. And one of the things I love the most about ranching is these people are probably the best stewards of our environment. So Dorothy and I will delve into that a little as well. So stay tuned for our interview with Dorothy. Dorothy, welcome. It's so great to have you here today.
So glad to be here, Juliet.
Well, good. I'm really excited about your book because you and I have had so many discussions about all of these people that are moving from the city. And I actually pulled stats, you guys. I'm really impressed with myself. I don't know if Dorothy is or not, but so since 2020, about 32% of Gen Z and 26% of millennials have moved out of the big city and into country living, small towns, more property, less cost for housing. And the key reasons have been 27% of them want more affordable housing. 31% of them have moved because family's closer. And you have kids, I have kids. If you have family close when you have kids, it's a huge help. And then 17% have moved because now that we have remote work, they can work from anywhere. But some of the downfalls, which I love about your new book, it's a transition. It's hard work. It's not just, yay, it's not green acres. So tell me a little bit about your background and why you wrote this book.
Well, my background, I have been a ranch woman actually all my life. I was raised on a ranch. I rode horses. I began riding horses at the age of 4 on an old horse. And whenever I fell off, my dad just said, "Get back on there," because I said, "It's going to be your life. And it's not about just falling off. You got to get back up there and continue on with the journey." And so that was really a good lesson for me as a young child, is that you never quit. You just
Yeah.
keep on going, and that was a really good lesson. You just, I said, there's pitfalls in every part of your life, but if you just keep getting up and doing it all over again, and eventually you get it right.
That's so very true. I remember when I was about 4 or 5, I got bucked off a horse, and because we lived out on a horse ranch, and yeah, it hurt. But you know what? I had hit the horse, so
Right.
I can say that I was very deserving of that buck off. Very deserving. And to give you guys some perspective about age, my mother actually used to ride her horse to school.
Okay.
She
Yes.
lived out in San Miguel Parkfield area, and she would ride her horse to school every day. Now, of course, that was back in like the late 40s, early 50s.
Right.
It's not like she did it, there,
Exactly.
but that was what people did back then too, when they
Yeah,
lived out in the
exactly.
country
And
like
and
that.
quite a few of the ladies that are that have co-authored in the book, they rode to school as
Yeah.
well. So, like I say, they were born in the 1930s and some of them in the 1940s. So yes, they rode to school. That was part of their life, was the horse. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned that we moved to the city, or moved to Paso Robles, which isn't really a city, but when we went to school, and part of that was my mother said, I grew up in this really small place riding my horse to school, and I don't want the kids to have to, do that. So why did you write the book? You had all this experience. Why did you feel that this was something that you wanted to share with people?
well, as I became a ranch woman, married into a ranching family, I realized that women did not have a voice within the ranching communities. And like I say, I've been a ranch woman, the wife of a rancher for the last 48 years now. And I realized that it's so crucial for the women to have a voice. And so, yeah, that's why like I said, over the years, it was just something that I really wanted to do. And I thought, as I learned more and more about ranch life, I said it was just so important to give those women and myself a voice.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, one of the things that I really like about the platform that you've built, and you guys will be shocked by this, ranchers are all about recycling, sustainability. Nothing goes to waste on a ranch. If it's organic, it goes in the compost post pile. Some of your most watched videos are actually some of the things that go into that. So, talk a little bit about that, because the banana peel, if you guys haven't seen it, go over and look at Grandma Beasley's Country Kitchen over on YouTube. She actually has a video and one of her recipes about boiling banana peels, which I never knew you could do that. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't think people understand that, it's not like the city where you go to the garbage can. Every single piece of everything gets used.
Exactly. And it was funny you mentioned that, because I was at my daughter-in-law to be here on the weekend, and I said, "Do you throw everything on the garbage, or do you have a recompost in a heap, or whatever you do?" And she said, "Well, there used to be something in the city, but now there isn't anymore, and so it's something that we're lacking." And so then it reminded me, like I said, we either have things like we do to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, or whatever, and make something more edible. And I'd always heard that banana skin was actually the most nutritional of the banana. So I looked it up one day, and then that's what I found. I said, if you boil the banana peel, then you can easily make some banana water, and then you use it for sleeping to help you sleep. So yeah, so it was worth it to learn that. And yeah, I said, just little things like that, that you can use. The same with an orange. You can do the same thing with an orange or a grapefruit. You can boil it in water. It takes the negative energy out of your room, make rooms smell nice.
I never knew that. That's so funny. I actually drink a lot of infused water to help me be able, because water just has no taste. So I make infused water, and a lot of times I cut oranges up in it with the peel and
Right.
all. on there. But also it's little things like the peels on a potato are super nutritious. The peel on a cucumber, I don't peel the cucumbers either. I just score them. So probably.
And I was just going to say about that, the peels on a potato. If you have warts, you rub that potato peel on the wart, and it will disappear. I used to have
Really?
warts on one of my thumbs, and I learned that little trick, and I used it, and I haven't had any warts on any part of my body since.
That is so funny. And there's so many things when you were living that ranch life that you can do as well. I think I've shared with at least Dorothy before that my mother used to have this salve that was horse medicine. And when
Right.
when we got hurt, she'd just pop it on and the cut would be healed the next day. I wish I could find the name of it, but everybody around my family is passed now. There's just all these things that, it's sustainable. You don't have to leave, you don't have to do, a lot with it. So
Right.
on your website, I know you're going to do your new website, you're going to do a lot of these tips. What are some of the other things that you feel would be really beneficial for newbies going out into country life?
Like for cooking or just
Let's
working
get to the
outside or
Well, just like growing poultry, growing, different things. You grew up on a cattle ranch and a sheep ranch or goats?
sheep.
Sheep. Okay. I love it when goats dance, like the little babies. We have some down the street here right now. They're so cute.
My kids were allergic to cow's milk as well, so we did have goats when the kids were little as well. So I milked a goat for all the kids. They grew up on goat's milk and
Oh, wow.
cheese and those kind of things, and made the bread out of the goat's milk, and it was all healthy.
Yeah, no, and I think we've gotten away from that a lot too, because if you look, like my kids grew up around cows, so it was no big deal. But and if you ask some of these kids today, cows come from the grocery store. It's like, what?
Exactly. So it's really good. Like, I mean, it's really good to hear that there's people are going back to that, the age old way of living, because it's a secure way to live. And like I say, you are much more self-sufficient. There's so many things that you can do. Like, I mean, if you have your chickens out in the chicken house, then you can go out and butcher a chicken. And that's what they used to do in the old days. If they needed chicken for dinner, if they had a bunch of people come, they just went out and butchered the chicken. And then, I said in a couple hours or whatever, you had a chicken dinner. So
Right. I don't know if I could cut a chicken's head off, but I guess if I were hungry. But there's other things too, like the fresh chicken eggs. That was one of the things I learned was you bring them into the house, you don't put them in the refrigerator like you do with store-bought. They don't need to have that done. So
and the trick to that is not to wash them.
yes, I've heard that.
Like if you were to wash them, then you have to refrigerate them, because you take the film off the outside of the egg, which protects it from and helps it so it doesn't get old as fast.
Yeah. And I think people are going to be a lot healthier when they start doing these sorts of things too, because I feel like all the illness or much of the illness that's out there is because of all the chemicals we put in everything we eat now as well. So the other thing that you do really well on your site is you have cooking lessons. And I think that is really cool. So far we have shepherd's pie, pot pie, which you can kill that chicken right out in your yard. You can take those eggs and put them in the crust, banana bread, things like that are just really old favorites. But because it's Grandma Beasley's kitchen, you also have a lot that kids can help with as well, like the ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah,
So
and I would really like the families to be involved so the children learn from a young age actually how to cook from the basic ingredients, so that they're not just buying banana bread from the store or whatever and say, well, no big deal. But I said if they were to make it from scratch and actually realize what goes into it and how much more healthy it is, that it doesn't have those, the ingredients in there that it makes it last forever. Like I said, and as well as if they see the cow being milked, right on the ranch, and realize that when it lasts for 3 weeks or a month, there is preservatives in that milk, because actually the fresh milk only will last at the most 4 or 5 days.
yes, yes. And I noticed that in the stores, like tomatoes that last 3 weeks, they're pumped full of something. Because when I take them out of my garden, we have to eat them pretty rapidly. They're only lasting for 3 or 4 days. So, I think that's something, as people get more familiar with your platform and get over and watch, they're going to realize that, this fresh food is, it's not going to last as long, but it's fun to grow. It's fun to, take ownership of all that.
And the good thing about that I've done with I believe the good thing that I've done with my website is I actually do a live cooking show, so that people people can interact. And so when it's set up properly, we'll have the recipe there, and then you can go to the store and get your ingredients, and then you can make it along with the recording.
Yes.
All those things I said, or I can also do a live cooking show so that we can people can participate in that as well. So
yeah, exactly. And you guys, if you go over, she doesn't have like, this is not pioneer woman fancy cooking. The dudes are in and out. Like, she's very basic with what she does, but you get everything in advance. You get the not only ingredients, but you're going to have some of the cooking, the utensils, the pans, the different things that you do over there as well, which I think is really cool. I have a ton of stuff down in my pantry that I have bought and I've only used. I always tell my daughter when I die, she's gonna have to expand into a new pantry for all the stuff that I've gotten on that. But okay, so let's get to not only the book. The book is an anthology, but you're gonna start ranch retreats. So tell us about those, because that sounds like a fun way to get away from the kids, to be honest, for a lot of women. Going to the ranch for the weekend.
It'll actually be a 4-day retreat with 2 full days of things happening in between. So you'll come on possibly a Friday night, either fly in from the airport and then rent a car and then come out to the ranch. And then we'll have a big open campfire to begin with, just to kind of open up the night. And then there'll be a couple of different packages so that you can actually, if you would like to experience like life on the ranch, like so if you want to do a horseback ride or interact with the horses, and like I say, and then or milk a cow and feed the chickens, see where the eggs come from, and the different kind of chickens and those kind of things, as well as a transformational vision workshop and vision boarding, so that you can actually find out more about yourselves as well. And so it's an interconnection with yourself. So you can go inside and figure out if you've got some discontents in your life or anything like that, and then what would you love in your life, and as well as just walking around outside and connecting with nature. And it's very, very quiet out here, and so it's just a peaceful situation, and get you maybe a little bit more idea of what it's like to actually live out here as well. And then we'll also do some cooking together, and depending on the time of the year, I want to have it every month if possible, weather permitting, during winter and summer, spring and fall, so that you can the women can experience all the seasons as well.
Yeah, I would imagine winter's a little tough out.
It could be. I mean, depending if we're in Manitoba or if we're in Alberta. We have a ranch in Alberta as well as one in Manitoba, and the snow can get to be about 5 feet deep in Manitoba. So, but then that just means you do things a little bit differently, and so they would be able to experience how we feed the cows in the wintertime. And I said there's skidooing or skiing and those kind of things, and a different way of life, compared to the city. I mean, it's definitely harder because you have to open the water holes and those kind of things. So you need to know how to work an app.
Yeah, and not a Lizzie Borden app.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've never experienced that part of it because I grew up in a ranch in California. So much rain was devastating. Not snow, not really cold snow. So it sounds like it's like a personal development dudette ranch weekend.
For sure.
Yeah. And I'm really excited. I keep bugging her. I keep nagging Dorothy about doing preserves, canning, because that's what I would really like to do. I've done a little bit, but I'm never confident about that seal. And I'm not a very good cook. So I don't know. I made blueberry jam once and I'm not sure anybody ate it. I think everybody was scared. So Dorothy, where do we find your book? It came out on June 11th, and you have a website where we can go to see it and buy it.
And it'll be coming out on Amazon as well as Barnes and Noble and Target.
Apple, Walmart, Target, wherever you buy books, you can get the ebooks at some of those bigger retailers. So yeah, it's going to be all over the place. But if you don't want to take a look, because if you don't want to go search, she has a website, voicesfromtheprairie.com, where you can go over and just click a link and go right into whatever retailer you want to purchase that book. So Dorothy, thank you so much for being on today. This was really great. Thank you for sharing. And I'm excited about your ranch retreat.
Great. We'll know a little bit more once I get them all set up.
Okay, good.